Hi, everyone. I'm Rob Taylor. I'm the REDCap team manager and lead developer for the REDCap software at Vanderbilt. Today, I'll be talking about the REDCap software, especially talking about what's new and what's next coming for the software. Really reviewing things over the past year that we've added as big new features in REDCap, and also thinking about exciting new features coming later this year in REDCap as well. So let's look back over the past year at some of the bigger features we've added. In version 11, we added a very exciting feature called project dashboards. So this is a very cool feature because it is basically a blank slate. You can set up your own project dashboards, as many as you want. And really, they're a page where you can set anything you want there. Static text, it can be dynamic text. And one of the great things about using these is utilizing smart charts, smart functions, and smart tables on them. These are dynamic elements. They're really a subgroup of smart variables that we have in REDCap so that they can be utilized here and other places throughout REDCap. So you might want to use these smart functions like they are essentially like aggregate mathematical functions like min, max, mean, median, sum, things like that. You can also display these smart tables. So these nice statistical tables of the data. You can customize that in various ways, and also having smart charts. We have line charts, bar charts, pie charts, scatter plots. You can use univariate or multivariate plots here. You can even do grouping and get this nice option where you have different colors for the grouping if you want to do that. So it can be very, very powerful for building a page to just display all kinds of dynamic elements that are always up to date in REDCap. And it's very easy to set up. Just go to the project dashboard page and you can start building. And all you really need is a title and just the content, just adding content to that rich text editor right there. And you can provide all the text there, the static text, as well as the smart variables just inside those square brackets for the different aggregate functions or the smart charts. And it ends up coming out looking very nice like these examples right here. Also, a really cool feature is the fact that you can set these as public. So you can have your project dashboard, but you can also set it as public and get a public URL. That way you can give that URL to someone and they don't have to be a REDCap user. They don't have to have a REDCap account, and you give it to them. You can post it on your departmental webpage or social media. And that way people can get that link, go right to it and view your dashboard right there in real time on the page. So it's really, really useful for a lot of different use cases, whether you need that as sort of a landing page for your department or your study or a survey. Yeah, it's very, very flexible in that regard. So check out project dashboards. And talking about public links, we also have the option to set reports as public as well. You can get a public link for a report. So just like you're viewing it inside REDCap itself, it'll look just the same as a public report, except you won't be, inside REDCap with the left-hand menu and your project there around the report. It'll just be a single page with the report. And it is thinking about the privacy aspect. So it is making sure that, identifying fields are not included in a report. And also it makes sure that you walk through all the privacy steps to make sure you understand what you're doing before you make these public there. So that can be very useful. I know we've used these before, specifically like for agendas. Like if you have a conference agenda, it's nice to have each record serve as a different element in the table there. If you have like a different item in the conference, or for things like, displaying a table of uploaded files or videos. I know we use this a lot for like our administrator videos for the consortium and the training materials repository and lots of other different things out there. So there's many different reasons you might want to use a report and make it public in this way. So check it out. In version 12, we added a really cool feature called form display logic. And it's very similar to survey queue logic. You may have used the survey queue before, and survey queue is more survey facing. You want it to display that way for survey participants. But form display logic is for, it's meant to be user facing. So that way it's changing the way that certain forms look on, like say, the record status dashboard and the record homepage. So that way you can really disable and enable certain forms based on conditional logic. So based on the data in the current record at the time, it will decide, hey, do I need to allow users to go into this form or not? So as you can set up, which forms you want to keep enabled or disabled, and also what the logic is. And so that way, when you see it on here, like say your record homepage, you'll see like the second and third data collection instrument right here are currently disabled. I can't click on that icon there yet. I cannot go inside there to enter data because the form display logic says, hey, this needs to stay disabled, until the criteria is met. So the form display logic is really nice. It can help guide the workflow a bit better than normal, because sometimes you might, especially with the longitudinal project, you have just a lot of different places where users can click and they can go, but this can help guide them if you need it to be a little bit more of a linear data entry process. That way they literally can't go anywhere until the certain criteria have been met through the data entry process itself. You can set as many different conditions as you want to. You can set it up here, so that way you have different logic for different forms, and if it's longitudinal, you can even set it up to work across different events as well and get pretty complex with your form display logic. So it's very powerful and very cool, so check it out. Also in version 12, one of the biggest features we've had in some time is the multi-language support that we've added to surveys and data entry forms. This is a long time coming and something we've been very excited about, and that's the multi-language management feature in version 12, where you can create multi-languages. So you can set up your project in one language, so you can set the field labels and all the survey questions and survey instructions in one language. And then you can go and use this feature to translate all those different aspects of the data entry process. So it's really meant to be focused around data entry, whether it's surveys or data entry forms. You can focus on one or the other or both, but it's really all about that, through the record status dashboard and record homepage, data entry forms and surveys. And that's where we're focusing on, things that you can translate. So you want to set up your default language, your reference language there first, and that's going to be the language that you've already defined your fields and your questions in. That could be English, that could be Spanish, it could be any language actually. And then you go and you add all these other languages that you want to translate the default language into. You can even translate, all the question text, translate the question text, section header text, survey instructions, all the survey settings as well, even alerts and notifications, automatic survey invitations, even the user interface, like the survey submit buttons, the today and the now buttons for date fields and things like that. Even things that are just stock language in REDCap that are there on the data entry form or survey, you can translate those as well. So it's very, very comprehensive. And it even has import and export features if you want to import all your language out of one project and into a very similar project or a clone of the project. And it's also exportable in the project XML file as well. And at the end of the day, you get a nice user interface where it just displays a little globe at the top and a button where you can change the language very, very easily from one to the other. It doesn't reload the page, just does it in real time. It's almost magical where it changes and makes it super useful. It even remembers it. If you're a user or a survey participant, it'll remember what your last choice was, so that if you come to, say, a survey again in the future, it already knows that you want that language and will go ahead and load it for you. But if they don't, they can always change it to another language if they want to. Yeah, so check it out. That's MLM, the multi-language management feature in version 12. Another recent feature that we've added into REDCap is the ability to have instrument level data export privileges. So this is a big deal because for the longest time in REDCap, for most of its history, you've had the ability to have granular, like instrument level data viewing rights, but data export rights were really just more of, all or nothing. It applied to all the fields in the project, what you were wanting to export them as, no access or de-identified or full data set. So it was a pretty limiting, honestly. So we added this as a new feature, and now you can set your instrument level data export rights, just like you've always been able to do with your data viewing rights. So you can set it exactly how you want so that you can get just the right balance of exporting and viewing of the data, across the entire project for your users. And so it's really, really helpful to have that, and gives you a lot more control over exactly what users can see and what they can get out of their REDCap project. And then here, very recently we added the project calendar sync feature in REDCap. So this is on the calendar page in your projects where you can set it up. Right here, you can click that button and you can view your options in this little pop-up dialog right here. You can get a live calendar feed right here. It just gives you a URL, and you can add that to any of your favorite calendar applications, external calendar applications like Google Calendar, Outlook, Outlook 365, iCal, things like that. So you can provide it there as a URL, and it's an actual live feed. Now, how often it gets refreshed depends on the calendar application you're using, but this way you can have sort of a one-way feed that pulls directly from your project calendar into your local calendar. This might be very helpful if you do a lot of your work, like in Outlook or Google Calendar. You don't want to have to keep going back into REDCap to view that one project and that one calendar every time. This allows you to view it in multiple places. So it is a one-time feed. It's not a two-way feed, so you can't modify it in the application in order to affect it in REDCap. So you can modify it in REDCap and it will affect it there in the application. But yeah, it's super, super useful here. But if you don't want a live feed, you can actually get a one-time import. So you can download the ICS file, the calendar file, and then you can load all those calendar events directly into your application through that file. So that way it's just more of a one-time load of all the events, and you're done. Or if you want to get a constant updated feed, you can get that URL as well. So we're hoping to really see a lot of people utilize these in different ways, especially the fact that we have smart variables like calendar-based smart variables, where you can actually fetch the calendar feed or download the calendar ICS file for specific records. That way you can put that, say, at the end of a survey. And if you're using the calendar or scheduling module in a REDCap project, someone takes the survey, and then you can put that smart variable there, that calendar-URL smart variable, and then they can download their file or their live feed right there and say, hey, here is the calendar events for your upcoming visits. So you can download that and add it to your own calendar. That way you don't miss your visits. So that's a nice addition to that as well. So that is out now in the latest version of standard release for REDCap. All right, thinking about what's coming up next in REDCap, some pretty exciting things that we've been thinking about and working on with our team here at Vanderbilt. And one of those is support for repeating instruments and events in automated survey invitations. So it's very exciting. It's very complicated to think about this option, because we've never had the ability to use like repeating surveys for ASIs before, for automated survey invitations. It's more of just a one-time, thing where you send out the invitation, it gets triggered, it gets sent out, and then you take it and then you're done. We've had the ability to send recurring alerts if you're using alerts and notifications, but not with the ability to use these for automated survey invitations. So we are working out where if you do have an instrument that's set up to be a repeating instrument and it's enabled as a survey, then you'll be able to set up, sort of a subsequent invitation repeating schedule for the ASI. So you can there, when you're setting up your automated invitations right here, as you can see there following the arrow, you can set up your initial invitation, when that first one gets triggered there, but then you can also set up a separate one for all the subsequent invitations, because those might be getting triggered based on something else, such as the previous instance. Somebody might complete the survey, and that triggers the next survey there. That way you can have like a daily survey, a weekly survey, a monthly survey, and that way you can schedule it that way, so that each one sort of triggers the next one in that fashion. So we're also we're thinking about that, but we're also thinking about other ways of doing repeating surveys through alerts as well to make it a bit clearer for people on just different ways of doing this, because there's not going to be one single way that people want. There's actually going to be several ways. So more on that coming in the future. So stay tuned. And another feature we're looking at adding is the ability to embed images into survey invitations and alerts. So that way you can upload any kind of image file there in that rich text editor, and you can pop it right into your email text. In fact, a lot of places where we have rich text editors, you'll be able to add an embedded image. And also just thinking about ways where maybe we can provide email templates like in a basic format for people, just to get them started with a kind of a nicer looking email that they want to send out to maybe users or to survey participants. So this will be a nice feature for people to have in the future. And another really cool feature we are thinking about as well is some better file organization for the file repository. The file repository has been around for a long time, actually since the beginning of REDCap. But it hasn't really changed a whole lot. It's been very flat. You can add lots of files there. It's pretty useful, but we're really thinking about ways to make it better for organization, such as having the ability to build folders there, and you can have multiple structures of folders and files within those folders. You can just drag and drop your files directly in there. You can even have options to share out your files. So maybe you can get like a public link, kind of similar to the project dashboards and the reports where we have public links there. You could share out a file stored here in your file repository, get that link and share it with somebody there. And it makes it a lot easier to really keep up with your project level files there in REDCap, and maybe even thinking about the possibility of adding API methods so that you could even import and export files from the file repository through the API, and that would be very, very powerful. That's another awesome feature we are thinking about. So that's it. Thanks for having me here today. It's been a pleasure talking with you all. And yeah, that's it as far as new and next features that are coming in REDCap. So thank you very much.